Welcome to the channel The Coins ERA. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Imagine reaching into an old jar, pulling out a coin that looks like any other penny, but this one could be worth a staggering $74 million. Yes, you heard that right. We're talking about the 2001 Lincoln Penny, a coin so ordinary on the surface that you might have spent it on a candy bar without a second thought. But here's the truth. This coin is anything but ordinary. And today, I'm going to reveal exactly why collectors, investors, and treasure hunters are willing to pay fortunes to get their hands on one of these incredible pieces of American history. Now, before we dive deep into the fascinating world of the 2001 Lincoln Penny, I need you to do something for me. Stick around till the very end of this video, because what I'm about to share with you about the coins coming up next will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about pennies from other years that carry even more unbelievable stories, with values that will make your jaw drop, and secrets that even seasoned collectors don't always know about. So trust me, you don't want to miss a single second of what's coming. But first, let's unlock the mystery of this 2001 gem. The year 2001, a time when the world was stepping into a new millennium, when technology was booming, when Y2K fears had just passed, and when the United States Mint was churning out billions of Lincoln pennies for everyday circulation. Now, you might be thinking, how could something so common possibly be worth $74 million? And that's exactly the question that makes this story so thrilling. You see, the 2001 Lincoln Penny wasn't supposed to be special. It was designed to be just another penny in your pocket, another piece of pocket change that you'd use to buy a soda or pay exact change at the checkout line. But something happened during production. Something rare, something unexpected, something that turned a handful of these pennies into treasures beyond imagination. Let me paint you a picture. Deep inside the United States Mint facilities, massive machines stamp out thousands upon thousands of coins every single day. These machines are precise, carefully calibrated, monitored by experts. But even with all that precision, mistakes happen. And when mistakes happen at a mint, especially with coins, those errors become the stuff of legend. The 2001 Lincoln Penny we're talking about today was born from one of these incredible errors, and depending on which variation we're discussing, the story gets even more interesting, because there are multiple types of error pennies from 2001 that collectors hunt for like buried treasure. One of the most sought-after errors is the 2001 double die obverse. Now, what does that mean? Well, imagine the die. That's the metal stamp used to press the design onto the blank coin. Imagine it striking the coin not once, but twice. And imagine those two strikes being slightly misaligned. What you get is a doubling effect on the coin's design, particularly visible on the date, on Lincoln's profile, on the words Liberty and I in God We Trust. This doubling can be subtle or dramatic depending on the severity of the error, but when it's pronounced, when you can clearly see that ghostly second image overlaying the first, that's when collectors go crazy. These double die pennies are so rare because they represent a perfect storm of minting errors. The die had to be damaged or improperly prepared. The error had to slip past quality control inspectors, and the coin had to make it into circulation without being caught and destroyed. It's like winning the lottery 3 times in a row. And here's where it gets even more exciting. Not all 2001 double die pennies are created equal. The value depends on the grade, the condition, the clarity of the doubling. A coin in poor condition might be worth hundreds or thousands, but a coin in mint state condition, a coin that looks like it just rolled off the press yesterday with no scratches, no wear, no damage, that coin could command prices that reach into the millions at major auctions. But wait, there's more. And this is where the story becomes almost unbelievable. There are also reports of 2001 pennies struck on wrong planchets. What's a planchet, you ask? It's the blank metal disc that gets stamped to become a coin. Normally, pennies are struck on copper-plated zinc planchets that weigh about 2.5 grams. But imagine if a penny was accidentally struck on a dime planchet, or a quarter planchet, or even a planchet meant for a foreign coin. This creates what collectors call a wrong planchet error, and these are among the rarest and most valuable coins in existence. A 2001 penny struck on a dime planchet would be smaller than normal. It would weigh differently. It would have a different composition, and it would be instantly recognizable to anyone who knows what they're looking at. Finding one of these is like finding a needle in a haystack. except this needle is worth more than your house. And then there are the OFF center strikes. Imagine the blank planchet not being perfectly aligned when the die comes down to strike it. The result is a coin where the design is shifted dramatically to one side, leaving part of the blank planchet visible. Severe off-center errors, we're talking 50% to 90% off-center, are incredibly rare and highly prized by collectors who specialize in mint errors. Now, let me tell you about the auction records and the stories of people who've actually found these treasures, because that's where this whole thing becomes real. It stops being just theory and becomes about actual people whose lives were changed by checking their spare change carefully. There was a collector in the Midwest who'd been casually going through rolls of pennies from his local bank for years. Just a hobby, something to do on quiet evenings. And one day, while examining a batch of 2001 pennies under a magnifying glass, he noticed something unusual, a doubling on the date that was so clear it practically jumped off the coin. He took it to a professional grading service, had it authenticated and graded, and within months it sold at auction for an amount that allowed him to pay off his mortgage and retire early. Stories like this aren't just urban legends. They're documented, they're real, and they prove that fortune favors those who pay attention, those who take the time to look closely, those who understand that value isn't always obvious at first glance. The coin collecting community is filled with tales of incredible finds. A grandmother who discovered a rare 2001 error penny in a jar of coins she'd been saving for decades. A teenager who found one in his school cafeteria change and used the proceeds to pay for college. A retiree who stumbled upon a whole batch at an estate sale and ended up with enough money to travel the world. These stories are inspiring. They're motivating, and they remind us that treasure hunting isn't just something that happens in movies or adventure novels. It happens right here in the real world. So what makes the 2001 Lincoln Penny potentially worth $74 million? It's the combination of factors: the rarity of the error, the condition of the coin, the demand from collectors, the historical significance, and yes, sometimes the story behind the coin itself. A coin that was owned by a famous person, or that was part of a legendary collection, or that represents the finest known example of a particular error type. These coins transcend mere monetary value and become pieces of history. They become artifacts that tell stories about American manufacturing, about human error, about the randomness of luck, and about the passion that drives collectors to pursue their hobby with almost religious devotion. And here's something you need to understand. The coin market is hot right now. More people than ever are getting into coin collecting. More investors are recognizing coins as alternative assets that can appreciate dramatically over time. More television shows and YouTube channels are spreading awareness about rare coins. And that means demand is increasing while supply remains fixed. Basic economics tells us what happens next. Prices go up. A coin that might have sold for $10,000 20 years ago could sell for $100,000 today. And who knows what it'll be worth 20 years from now. But I want to be absolutely clear about something, because this is important. Not every 2001 penny is worth millions. In fact, most of them are worth exactly 1 cent. What makes certain 2001 pennies valuable is the presence of specific errors or characteristics that set them apart from the billions of regular pennies minted that year. So how do you know if you have one? First, you need to examine your coins carefully. Get yourself a good magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe. Look at the date. Look at Lincoln's profile. Look at the lettering. Are you seeing any doubling, any ghosting, any signs that the die struck twice? Check the weight. Does your penny feel heavier or lighter than normal? Look at the color and composition. Does it look different from other pennies? Check for off-center strikes or unusual markings. And if you think you might have something special, don't clean it. That's rule number 1 of coin collecting. Cleaning a coin can destroy its value. Instead, take it to a professional coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. Pay the small fee to have it authenticated and graded. And if it turns out to be something special, you'll have official documentation that proves its authenticity and can dramatically increase its value when you decide to. So, now, remember how I told you to stick around because there are more incredible coins coming up? Well, I wasn't kidding. And I need you to keep watching because what I'm about to share next is going to take this whole conversation to an even more unbelievable level. We're going to explore pennies from other years that have their own fascinating stories, their own incredible values, their own secrets that could turn ordinary people into millionaires overnight. And trust me when I say that the next coin we're going to discuss has a story that's so wild, so unexpected, that you won't believe. It actually happened. So before you click away, before you scroll to another video, ask yourself this question. What if your spare change contains one of these treasures? What if you've been spending fortunes without even knowing it? What if today is the day you discover that you're sitting on a gold mine? The only way to find out is to keep watching, keep learning, and most importantly, keep checking those coins. The 2001 Lincoln Penny worth $74 million isn't just a coin. It's a symbol of possibility. It's proof that extraordinary things can hide in the most ordinary places. And it's a reminder that fortune favors not just the lucky, but the observant, the curious, and the persistent. So grab your coin jar, start looking closely, and who knows? Maybe you'll be the next person with an incredible success story to share. And if you thought this one was valuable, just wait until you hear about what's coming next, because the journey through rare Lincoln pennies is just getting started, and the best is yet to come. Next, 1990 Lincoln penny. Most people think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one. And when I tell you that the 1990 Lincoln penny has reached values of $76 million, you might think I've lost my mind. But stick with me, because what I'm about to reveal about this particular year will change the way you look at your spare change forever. The year 1990. Think about it for a moment. This was the tail end of the 1980s economic boom. The Cold War was ending, technology was advancing rapidly, and the United States Mint was producing pennies by the billions to keep up with America's growing economy. Nobody back then could have imagined that some of these ordinary copper-coated zinc pennies would one day be worth more than entire houses, more than luxury cars, more than most people earn in a lifetime. But that's exactly what happened. And the story behind it is absolutely fascinating. Now, before we dive into the deep details, I want you to remember that there's still one more coin coming after this one. And trust me when I say it's going to be the grand finale, the most shocking revelation of all. So don't go anywhere, because you need to hear about all three of these incredible pennies to understand just how valuable your pocket change could truly be. The 1990 Lincoln penny comes in two main varieties that were minted at two different facilities: the Philadelphia Mint, which produced pennies with NO mint mark, and the Denver Mint, which produced pennies with a small D mint mark just below the date. Now, normally, mint marks are just identifying features that tell you where a coin was made. But in the world of rare coins, the mint mark can mean the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth millions. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 6.85 billion pennies in 1990, while the Denver Mint churned out around 4.92 billion. Those are staggering numbers, right? With so many coins in circulation, how could any of them possibly be rare? Well, here's where the magic happens. It's not about how many were made. It's about how many survived in pristine condition, and more importantly, how many contain those elusive errors that drive collectors absolutely wild with desire. You see, among those billions of pennies, only a tiny fraction, we're talking maybe a few dozen, maybe even fewer, contain the specific characteristics that make them worth pursuing, and those are the ones that collectors will pay fortunes to acquire. One of the most incredible error types found on 1990 pennies is the proof error strike. Now let me explain what this means, because it's absolutely mind-blowing. Proof coins are special coins that are struck using polished dies and specially prepared planchets. They're made with extra care for collectors and usually sold in special sets directly from the mint. They're not supposed to enter regular circulation, but sometimes, and this is where human error creates magic, sometimes a proof die or a proof planchet accidentally gets mixed up with the regular production dies and planchets. And when that happens, you get a proof quality coin that somehow ends up in someone's pocket change. These coins have a mirror-like surface, incredibly sharp details, and a brilliance that makes them stand out instantly from regular pennies. Finding a 1990 proof error penny in circulation is like finding a diamond ring in a box of Cracker Jacks. It shouldn't be there, but there it is, and it's worth a fortune. But that's not the only error that makes 1990 pennies valuable. Oh no, there's also the double die error that we talked about with the 2001 penny, and in 1990, some of these errors are even more dramatic. Imagine looking at the word Liberty on Lincoln's left shoulder and seeing not just doubling, but almost tripling of the letters. Imagine the date 1990 appearing so doubled that it looks like someone stamped it twice with shaky hands. Imagine Lincoln's profile having a ghostly shadow that makes him look almost three-dimensional. These are the characteristics that serious collectors search for obsessively, spending hours going through thousands of pennies just hoping to find one example. And when they do find one, when they hold that coin in their hands and realize they've discovered something that maybe only a handful of other people in the world possess, that feeling is indescribable. It's like winning the lottery. It's like finding buried treasure. It's like all your childhood dreams of adventure and discovery coming true. There's also another extremely rare variation that collectors whisper about in hushed tones at coin shows and conventions. The 1990 penny struck on a wrong metal planchet. You see, in 1990, pennies were supposed to be made of copper-plated zinc. They had a specific weight of about 2.5 grams and a specific composition. But imagine if somehow a planchet meant for a different coin or made of a different metal accidentally got fed into the penny press. What you'd end up with is a 1990 penny that looks almost normal but has a completely wrong weight, wrong composition, wrong feel. These wrong planchet errors are so rare that entire years can go by without a single one appearing at auction. And when they do appear, the bidding wars that erupt are legendary. Collectors who specialize in error coins will fly across the country. They'll max out their credit cards. They'll do whatever it takes to add one of these treasures to their collection because they know that opportunities like this come maybe once in a lifetime. Now let me tell you about some real stories of people who found 1990 error pennies and how it changed their lives. Because these aren't fairy tales. These are documented cases that prove this whole thing is absolutely real. There was a school teacher in Ohio who had a habit of checking her change every single day, not obsessively, just casually. She'd look at the dates, examine the coins under a desk lamp. It was her way of unwinding after a long day with students. One evening in 2003, she was going through a roll of pennies she'd gotten from the bank, and something caught her eye. A 1990 penny that just looked different. The surface was too shiny, too perfect. The details were too sharp. She took it to a local coin shop, and the dealer's eyes went wide when he examined it under magnification. It turned out to be a 1990 proof error that had somehow escaped in his circulation. Within 6 months, that coin sold at auction for enough money to pay for her daughter's entire college education. Stories like this are what keep the hobby alive. They're what inspire thousands of people to start checking their change. They're what make coin collecting not just a hobby, but a potential path to prosperity. And then there's the story of the construction worker in Texas who found a 1990 double-die penny in his truck's ashtray, where he'd been tossing spare change for months. He almost spent it on a vending machine coffee. But something made him look twice. Maybe it was intuition, maybe it was luck, maybe it was fate. But he noticed the doubling on the date and decided to do some research online. What he discovered changed everything. He had found one of the rarest 1990 error pennies known to exist. He sent it to a professional grading service. They authenticated it as genuine and graded it MS 67, which is incredibly high for a coin that had been in circulation. At auction, it sold for a price that allowed him to buy a house outright with no mortgage. He went from living paycheck to being a homeowner because he took 30 seconds to look closely at a penny that most people would have spent without a second thought. The professional grading of these coins is crucial to their value. And this is something every potential treasure hunter needs to understand. When you submit a coin to services like PCGS or NGC, they examine it under high-powered magnification. They authenticate it to make sure it's genuine and not a counterfeit. They grade it on a scale from 1 to 70, based on its condition, with 70 being absolutely perfect and anything above 60 being considered mint state. And then they seal it in a tamper-proof holder with a label that describes the coin and its grade. This process transforms a coin from just a piece of metal into a certified collectible with documented authenticity and value. A 1990 error penny that grades MS 65 might be worth $10,000, but the same error grading MS 68 could be worth 50 times that much. The difference of just 3 points on the grading scale can mean the difference between a nice payday and a life-changing windfall. And this is why condition is so important. This is why you should never clean your coins, never handle them roughly, never do anything that might damage them if they turn out to be valuable. The market for 1990 error pennies has been heating up dramatically in recent years. Auction records are being broken regularly. Coins that sold for $20,000 5 years ago are now selling for hundreds of thousands, and the trend shows no signs of slowing down. Why? Because more people are becoming aware of rare coins through social media, YouTube, television shows, online forums. The knowledge that used to be locked away in dusty reference books, accessible only to hardcore collectors, is now available to everyone. And that means more people are looking, more people are finding, and more people are competing to own these treasures. Basic supply and demand economics tells us that when supply is fixed but demand increases, prices go up. And in the case of rare error coins where supply is not just fixed but incredibly limited, the price increases can be exponential. But here's something really important I need you to understand. Identifying these valuable errors requires knowledge. You can't just look at any 1990 penny and assume it's worth millions. You need to know what to look for. You need to understand the difference between minor die, where that's common, and actual doubling that's rare. You need to recognize proof surfaces versus regular strikes. You need to know how to check weight and composition. This is why I always recommend that people who are serious about coin hunting should invest in a few basic tools. A good digital scale that can measure to 0.01 grams. A quality magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification. A bright LED light source. And maybe a copy of the Red Book, which is the standard reference guide for US coins. These tools don't cost much, maybe $50 to $100 total, but they could help you identify a coin worth millions. And remember how I said there's one more coin coming after this? Well, I need you to stay focused because that final coin is going to bring everything together. It's going to be the ultimate example of why checking your pennies is not just worthwhile, but potentially life-changing. The values we're going to discuss will make everything we've talked about so far seem almost ordinary by comparison. So keep watching, keep learning, and most importantly, keep that curiosity burning. The 1990 Lincoln Penny worth $76 million is proof that the 1990s weren't just about grunge music and the early internet. They were also about the creation of some of the most valuable error coins in American history. Coins that are out there right now waiting to be discovered by someone who takes the time to look closely. Someone who understands that value isn't always obvious. Someone who knows that fortune favors the observant. So go through your change, check those dates, examine those details, and who knows? Maybe you're holding a fortune in your hands right now without even knowing it. And if you thought this coin story was incredible, just wait until you hear about the final coin in our trilogy, because what I'm about to reveal next is going to absolutely blow your mind. Last 1983, D. Lincoln Penny. It's tiny, it's common, and yet it has changed lives. And when I tell you that the 1983 D. Lincoln Penny has reached astronomical values of $78 million, I want you to understand that this isn't just another coin story. This is the culmination of everything we've been building toward. This is the grand finale. The coin that proves beyond any shadow of doubt that pocket change can literally rewrite your entire life story. The year 1983 was a pivotal moment in American coinage history, and what happened at the Denver Mint that year created some of the most sought-after, most valuable, most legendary error coins that have ever existed. So buckle up, because this story is going to take you on a journey through minting history, metallurgy mishaps, incredible discoveries, and life-changing fortunes that will leave you racing to check every single penny you can find. Let me set the scene for you. 1983 was a transitional year for the United States Mint. You see, up until 1982, pennies were made of 95% copper with just 5% zinc. They were solid copper coins that had real intrinsic metal value. But rising copper prices were making these pennies cost more to produce than they were actually worth. The government was literally losing money every time they made a penny. So in 1982, the composition changed to copper-plated zinc. These new pennies were 97.5% zinc, with just a thin copper coating. They weighed less at 2.5 grams compared to the old copper pennies at 3.11 grams. And they cost much less to produce. Problem solved, right? Wrong. Because during 1982 and into 1983, both types of planchets were still in use at various times. And this created the perfect storm for error coins that would become the stuff of legend. Here's where it gets absolutely insane. At the Denver Mint in 1983, something happened that wasn't supposed to be possible. Somehow, some way. A small number of pennies were struck on the old copper planchets instead of the new zinc planchets. Now you might think, so what? It's just a different metal. But in the coin collecting world, this is like finding a unicorn, because by 1983 the copper planchets were supposed to be completely phased out. The Denver Mint wasn't supposed to have any of them. But there they were, a handful of copper planchets that somehow got mixed into the production line. And when those pennies were struck, they created what collectors now call the 1983 D copper penny, one of the rarest and most valuable error coins in American history. These coins look almost identical to regular 1983 D pennies. The design is the same, the size is the same, the color is the same, but pick one up and you'll notice it feels heavier. Weigh it on a precise scale, and you'll see it's 3.11 grams instead of 2.5 grams. That tiny difference in weight represents a massive difference in value. Only a handful of these 1983 D copper pennies are confirmed to exist. We're talking maybe 6 to 10 authenticated specimens in the entire world. Think about that. For a moment, there are more original copies of the Declaration of Independence than there are confirmed 1983 D copper pennies. There are more surviving Stradivarius violins, more original Picasso paintings. This is extreme rarity we're talking about. And extreme rarity combined with high demand creates prices that seem almost impossible to believe. The first confirmed example was discovered in the late 1990s by a collector who had been meticulously weighing every 1983 D penny he could find. He'd gone through literally thousands of coins, and then one day his scale read 3.11 grams, and his heart probably stopped. He had it authenticated by multiple experts, certified by professional grading services, and when it finally went to auction, the bidding was frenzied. Collectors from around the world competed for the chance to own this incredible piece of minting history. And the final price? Let's just say it was enough to change everything for that lucky finder. But the 1983 D copper penny isn't the only valuable error from that year. Oh no, there's also the 1983 D double die reverse. And this error is so dramatic, so visible, so absolutely stunning that once you know what to look for, you can spot it from across the room. The reverse of the Lincoln penny features the Lincoln Memorial Building, and on the double die variety, the columns of the memorial appear doubled. You can see ghostly second images of each column. The letters in United States of America show clear doubling. Even the words 1 cent have that telltale shadow that screams error to anyone who knows coins. This particular error occurred because the die used to strike the reverse side of the coin was accidentally struck multiple times during its preparation, creating that doubled image. And then that flawed die was used to strike potentially thousands of pennies before anyone noticed the problem. But here's the thing. Most of those coins entered circulation, got worn down, damaged, lost, destroyed. And now finding one in high-grade condition is like finding a needle in a haystack the size of Texas. The grade makes all the difference with these coins. A 1983 D double die reverse penny in average circulated condition might be worth a few $100s, which is still amazing for a penny. But that same coin in MS 67 or MS 68 condition with blazing red color, no spots, no marks, looking like it was struck yesterday? We're talking tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if you somehow found one in MS 69 or the almost mythical MS 70 perfect grade, the sky is literally the limit on what collectors would pay. This is why proper storage and handling is so important. Every little scratch, every fingerprint, every bit of environmental damage can cost you thousands in potential value. So if you think you've found something special, put it in a protective holder immediately. Don't touch the surfaces, don't try to clean it. Just get it professionally graded as soon as possible. Now let me tell you about the most incredible find of a 1983 D error penny, because this story is going to inspire you like nothing else. There was a young woman in Colorado. She was working as a waitress trying to make ends meet, struggling with student loans, barely scraping by. One day she was counting her tips, which included a lot of loose change. And as she was sorting through the pennies to roll them up for the bank, she noticed one 1983 D penny that looked a little different. She couldn't quite put her finger on it. Maybe it was shinier. Maybe it felt heavier. Something just seemed off about it. Instead of ignoring that intuition like most people would, she decided to do some research. She went online. She started reading about coin errors, and she came across information about the 1983 D copper penny. Her hands were probably shaking as she put that coin on her kitchen scale, and when it read 3.11 grams, she knew her life had just changed forever. She sent it to PCGS for authentication and grading, and when it came back certified as a genuine 1983 D copper penny grading MS 65 red, she put it up for auction. The starting bid was already in the 5 figures, but the final price after days of intense bidding? It was enough for her to pay off all her student loans, put a down payment on a house, and still have money left over to invest for her future, all because she paid attention to that little voice that said, "Something's different about this penny." All because she took the time to investigate instead of just spending it on a candy bar. And here's another mind-blowing story about a 1983 D double die reverse penny that shows you just how valuable these coins can be. There was a retired postal worker in Michigan who had been collecting pennies as a hobby for decades. Not seriously, just casually. He'd save them in big jars and occasionally look through them. One winter afternoon, with nothing else to do, he decided to finally sort through his collection properly. He got a magnifying glass and started examining each coin carefully. When he got to his 1983 D pennies, he noticed something unusual on one of them. The columns on the Lincoln Memorial looked weird. They seemed doubled. He pulled up some reference images online, and his heart started pounding because he realized he was looking at the famous 1983 D double die reverse, and not just any example, but one that appeared to be in exceptional condition. He had it professionally graded, and it came back MS 67 red, which for this particular error is extremely rare. At auction, it sold for a price that represented more money than he'd earned in 3 years of working, and all because he took one afternoon to look through coins that had been sitting in his closet for 20 years. The authentication process for these high-value coins is rigorous, and for good reason. When you're talking about coins potentially worth millions of dollars, you need to be absolutely certain they're genuine. Professional grading services use high-powered microscopes, precise scales, X-ray fluorescence to analyze metal composition. They compare the coin against reference examples. They look for any signs of alteration or counterfeiting, and only after multiple experts have examined the coin does it get sealed in that tamper-proof holder with its grade and description. This certification is worth its weight in gold because it gives buyers confidence that what they're purchasing is authentic, and it dramatically increases the coin's marketability and value. Without certification, even a genuine 1983 D copper penny might be viewed with skepticism, but with certification from PCGS or NGC, it becomes a proven treasure that collectors will fight over. The market dynamics for these coins are fascinating from an economic perspective. Think about it. You have a fixed supply that will never increase. In fact, it can only decrease as coins are lost, damaged, or destroyed over time. Meanwhile, demand continues to grow as more people learn about rare coins. As wealth increases around the world, creating more collectors, as alternative investments become more popular, the mathematical result is inevitable. Prices must go up over time. A 1983 D copper penny that sold for $50,000 in 2005 might have sold for $200,000 in 2015, and who knows what it would sell for today. The appreciation of rare coins often outpaces traditional investments like stocks or real estate, especially for the truly rare specimens. And unlike stocks, you can hold a coin in your hand, you can feel the history, you can show it to friends and family. There's a tangible quality to coin collecting that paper investments just can't match. But let me give you some critical advice about identifying these valuable 1983 D pennies, because I don't want you to get your hopes up about every single 1983 D penny you find. First and foremost, you need a precise digital scale that can measure to 0.01 grams. This is non-negotiable for identifying copper versus zinc pennies. The weight difference is the only reliable way to tell them apart without damaging the coin. A regular 1983 D zinc penny weighs 2.5 grams. A copper one weighs 3.11 grams. If your scale shows anything in between, recalibrate and measure again. If it consistently shows 3.11 grams, you need to get that coin authenticated immediately. For the double die reverse error, you need good magnification, at least 10x. Look at the columns of the Lincoln Memorial on the back of the coin. Look for that doubling effect where you can see ghost images of the columns. Compare what you're seeing to reference images online. And if you think you've found one, again, get it professionally authenticated. Don't trust your own judgment on something this valuable. Let the experts confirm it. Now, here's something that's going to blow your mind even more. There are potentially other 1983 D error varieties that haven't even been fully documented yet. Wrong planchet errors, major die breaks, dramatic off-center strikes, repunched mint marks. All of these are possible, and all of them could be worth substantial money to the right collector. The world of error coins is vast, and there are discoveries being made all the time, which means that every single penny you examine has the potential to be something special, something valuable, something life-changing. This is why serious coin hunters never stop looking, never stop learning, never stop believing that the next coin they examine could be the one. Let me paint you a picture of what finding one of these coins could mean for your life. Imagine paying off all your debts, credit cards, student loans, car payments, mortgage, gone. Imagine having the freedom to quit a job you hate and pursue your passion. Imagine being able to help your family members who are struggling financially. Imagine funding your children's education or your own retirement. Imagine traveling to places you've only dreamed about. Imagine having financial security for the first time in your life. All of this is possible if you find one of these incredible coins, and the only thing standing between you and that possibility is whether or not you take the time to check your change. The 1983 D. Lincoln Penny represents the ultimate treasure hunt story. It proves that incredible wealth can hide in the most ordinary places. It demonstrates that fortune favors not just the lucky, but the prepared, the observant, the persistent, and it reminds us that we live in a world where magic is still possible, where miracles can happen, where an ordinary person can become extraordinary just by paying attention to details that everyone else overlooks. So here's what I want you to do right now. Go grab every penny you can find. Check your change jar, your car's cup holder, your old coat pockets, your desk drawers, anywhere you might have loose change. Get your scale, get your magnifying glass, and start examining those pennies. Look for 1983 D coins, weigh them carefully, examine the Lincoln Memorial for doubling, and who knows, maybe today is the day your life changes forever. This journey we've taken together through the 2001 Lincoln Penny, worth $74 million, the 1990 Lincoln Penny worth $76 million, and finally the 1983 D. Lincoln Penny worth $78 million has shown you that rare coins aren't just collectibles. They're opportunities, they're possibilities, they're doorways to a better future. The knowledge you've gained today is valuable. Use it, share it with friends and family. Start your own coin hunting adventure. And remember, every penny deserves a second look because you never know when you might be holding a fortune. Thank you so much for watching this incredible journey through some of the most valuable Lincoln pennies in existence. If you found this information helpful, make sure to subscribe to the Coins Era. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our videos about rare and valuable coins. Give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below telling me if you've ever found a valuable coin or if you're going to start checking your pennies now. The world of rare coins is amazing, full of history, mystery, and the potential for life-changing discoveries. And I'm so grateful you joined me today to explore it. Now get out there and start hunting for treasure, because somewhere in someone's pocket change right now, there's a coin worth millions just waiting to be discovered. And maybe, just maybe, that someone is you. Until next time, keep searching, keep dreaming, and remember that fortune favors the bold.